Please save me. My husband. He's beating me brutally. Please, please, he's going to kill me. The girl's scream detonated through my patrol radio like a bomb. Unit 17, Officer Gary reporting. 22:47 hours. I was on a standard patrol, cruising Franklin Avenue, when her words tore through the static. No hesitation, no room for doubt. Her voice wasn't asking for help. It was clinging to the last shred of life. Dispatch, confirm location. I barked, adrenaline already scorching through my veins. The reply crackled in my ear. 1629 Maplewood Drive. Caller terminated. Neighbors reporting screaming for the past 10 minutes. Backup dispatched, ETA 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7, goddamn, minutes. Too long, way too long. I could hear the violence still echoing in her voice. She didn't have 7 minutes. I slammed the cruiser into gear. Tires shrieked against asphalt as I punched the siren. Red and blue exploding across the sleeping city. The wheels shook under my grip, but I pushed harder. This wasn't just another call. This was why I wore the badge. Not to write tickets, not to patrol empty streets, but to serve humanity, to stand between a victim's scream and a predator's fist. I thought of her voice again, the sound of fists in the background, the crack of furniture breaking. I'd been here before. Once, as a rookie, I'd waited for backup like protocol demanded. By the time we broke in, the victim was gone. Dead. That memory haunted me every night. I swore never again. Tonight I'd keep that promise. Maplewood Street appeared calm, deceptively calm. Rows of tidy houses, porch lights glowing, jack-o'-lanterns smiling their hollow grins. The kind of neighborhood where people sip hot cocoa inside, pretending evil doesn't exist. But evil loves picket fences. It thrives behind closed curtains. I cut the siren and rolled in dark, just the pulse of lights strobing across mailboxes. My cruiser slid to a stop across from 1629 Maplewood. There it was. 2-story beige siding, green shutters, neat lawn. Too neat, too quiet. One faint light upstairs flickering like a dying candle. Unit 17 on scene, I whispered into the mic. Proceeding with caution. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, the night pressing heavy against my chest. I scanned the yard. Mailbox dented like someone struck it in rage. A downstairs window cracked open, curtain fluttering. Then I heard it. A sob, small, fragile, like glass breaking. Then a man's voice, harsh, poisoned. You think you can leave me? You think you can shame me? Loving some poor loser. A crash rattled the night. Wood splintering. Another sob, choked, weaker now. My teeth clenched. My hand hovered near my holster. I crept toward the window, crouched low, heart pounding in my throat. Through the gap in the curtain, I saw him. The husband. Broad shoulders, face twisted with rage, towering over a girl no older than 20, curled on the floor like a broken doll. Her lip was split, blood dripping down her chin. Her arms tried to shield her, trembling, bruised, and in his hand, a knife. The blade caught the dim light, sharp, inches from her throat. My blood boiled. My training screamed, wait for backup. My oath screamed louder. Not again. Not tonight. I shifted my stance, ready to move, planning my entry. Front door, back, smashed the window. Then her eyes flicked, just for a second, toward me, toward Hope. He noticed. His head snapped toward the window. And then our eyes locked. Through the thin glass, his gaze burned into me, wild and knowing. And in that frozen second, the world stopped breathing. The abusive husband spots Gary at the window, knife still poised. What happens next will erupt into chaos. For one long, bone-freezing moment, everything stood still. His eyes, my eyes. A predator staring down a hunter. A madman clenching onto power. The knife glimmered in his hand, angled toward her throat, daring me to make a move. The air was electric, so thick I could almost hear it hum. Then he smirked. Not fear, not surprise. A sick, triumphant smirk like he had caught me in his trap. The girl whimpered, her voice trembling. Please, don't! Shut up! He snarled, spittle flying as he jerked her hair, yanking her head back so the knife pressed even closer to her skin. A bead of blood formed under the blade. My stomach dropped. I didn't have time to weigh options. If I hesitated, if I let him see fear in me, she was finished. Dispatch, I whispered into my radio. Barely audible. Suspect armed with a knife. Hostage situation confirmed. Immediate entry required. Send backup with medical. The dispatcher's reply crackled. Copy. Unit 17. Backup ETA 4 minutes. Hold position. 4 minutes. No, she didn't have 4 seconds. I drew my weapon, kept it low, and moved silently along the wall toward the back entrance. Every step pounded in my ears. My training echoed in my head. Clear corners, check angles, breathe steady. But another voice spoke louder. Don't fail her like you failed before. I found the back door. Locked, but flimsy. A standard latch. I tested it, felt the give. One good hit and it'd open. Inside, I could hear him pacing. The floor creaked under heavy boots. He was ranting, words laced with venom. You think you're better than me? You think the world cares about your tears? You're nothing without me. Nothing. The girl sobbed harder, muffled by his hand. I positioned myself, gun ready, shoulder against the frame. My pulse was so loud I thought it would give me away. 3 breaths, in, out, in. Then crash. I hit the door with my full weight. It splintered inward, exploding off the hinges. Police, drop the weapon! I roared, storming in. The room burst into chaos. The husband spun around, eyes blazing, dragging her up like a shield. Knife still tight in his fist, pressed to her throat. Back off! 1 more step and she's dead, he bellowed. The girl's eyes locked with mine, wide, shimmering with terror. I aimed square at him, hands steady, voice hard. Drop the knife now! He laughed. Laughed. Like this was a game, like my command was a joke. You cops think you own me? This is my house, my woman. She doesn't breathe unless I allow it. His grip tightened, the blade digging deeper. The girl whimpered, blood trailing down her neck. Don't make me do it, man, he growled. Don't you dare step closer. Every muscle in my body coiled, ready to strike, but I had to play it right. If I rushed, she'd pay the price. I lowered my voice, calm but commanding. Listen to me. You're making this worse. Put the knife down and we talk. Just you and me. No one has to get hurt. He sneered. Talk? Oh, we're talking. I'm talking loud and clear. He jabbed the knife closer. She whimpered again, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Time slowed. I scanned the room. Furniture overturned. Shattered glass glinting on the floor. A lamp buzzing faintly where it had been knocked sideways. I noticed his stance, heavy on the right leg, knife hand trembling just slightly. A weak point, a hesitation, but not enough, not yet. The girl's eyes flicked. Toward me again, desperate, pleading, begging me to end it. I steadied my aim, kept my voice like steel. Don't throw your life away. Put it down, right now. He chuckled darkly. Life? What life? She was my life, and she betrayed me. You can't save her. Nobody saves her! Then his voice dropped into a whisper, chilling, final. Say goodbye. His arm twitched. The blade moved. My finger tightened on the trigger. And that's when it happened. A blur of motion. A sound like shattering thunder. The front door burst open. Backup? Neighbors? Another player in the game? I pivoted instinctively, weapon still trained, but my heart slammed in my chest. Because whoever had just entered the house wasn't shouting police. It was something else. A deep, gravelly voice snarled from the doorway. You're not ending this without me. The husband's eyes widened. not with fear, but recognition. The girl's scream filled the air. And in that single instant, I realized this nightmare wasn't just between me, her, and him. This ran deeper, much deeper. Who is this new figure? An ally, another threat. The tension just escalated beyond imagination. The crash of the front door still echoed through the house when the silence that followed seemed almost louder. My breath caught in my chest. My finger was tense on the trigger. That voice wasn't backup. It wasn't police, or clear, like it should have been. It was low, gravelly, scarred with years of smoke and violence. You're not ending this without me. The words rolled through the living room like thunder, heavy and certain. The kind of sound that didn't just speak, it claimed. The girl screamed. The husband stiffened, his whole body going rigid. Knife pressed so close to her throat that her skin split further, a fresh bead of crimson dripping down. I kept my Glock leveled, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. "Police!" I shouted, voice sharp as steel. Step forward slowly. "Hands where I can see them." But the figure in the doorway didn't move like a man caught in the act. He didn't even flinch at my command. Instead, he stepped in slowly, deliberately, boots pounding on the wood floor with the rhythm of inevitability. He was tall, 6'2", maybe 6'3", broad, built heavy in the shoulders, wearing a black leather jacket that looked older than me. It seems frayed from years of use. His jeans were dusty, boots scuffed, like he'd been walking through mud or worse. But it was his face that froze me. Half hidden in the shadow, but the smirk, that cruel, calm smirk, was lit enough for me to see. Not the smirk of someone amused, no. This was the smirk of a man walking into a game. He already believed he'd won. I've stared down killers before. I've seen rage, fear, desperation. But this was different. This was ownership. And then came the twist of the knife, figuratively and literally. The husband's eyes widened. His jaw slackened, just for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. Recognition, not shock at a stranger, not surprise at an intruder. Recognition, like a ghost had just walked into his living room. What the hell are you doing here?" The husband spat, voice raw, trembling with more than adrenaline. The stranger smirked wider, and his voice was almost playful. "You didn't think I'd let you handle this on your own, did you? Not after all the lessons I taught you." My gut twisted. My mind raced. Lessons? The girl's sobs filled the silence, muffled as the husband jerked her closer against his chest, his knuckles white around the knife. Her tears streaked across the blade as it pressed harder against her throat. I adjusted my aim, my voice slicing through the chaos. "Both of you, stop! Drop the knife, step away from her, and put your hands up now!" The stranger's eyes flicked. To me for the first time. Cold, calculated, sharp.
Enough to make me feel like
I was the one under interrogation. His smirk didn't falter. He didn't raise his hands. He just tilted his head slightly like he was studying me. Then he spoke, voice low but clear. "Relax, officer. I'm not here for you. I'm here for him." He jerked his chin toward the husband. The husband snarled, spit flying as he bellowed. "You don't get to take this from me. She's mine. This is my house." The stranger chuckled, a sound so out of place it twisted my stomach. "Yours? No, she was never yours. She's the prize you thought you won. But me, I never play for prizes." The husband's face contorted, veins bulging in his neck. "Stay out of this. This is my ending." Ending. The word struck like lightning. Whatever this was, it wasn't random. This wasn't just a case of domestic violence. This was theater. A performance for something larger. If you really like my real-life story and achievement during my service, please subscribe channel to motivate me. The girl's eyes locked with mine, wide with terror, silently begging me to make it stop. But I couldn't fire, not yet. Not without risking her life. The stranger took another step forward. His boots cracked against broken glass on the floor. The sound made the husband flinch, his knife hand trembling. Not from fear, but from rage. "You don't tell me how it ends," the husband screamed. He jerked her hair violently, yanking her head back further. She cried out in agony, blood dripping freely now. "You don't take this from me." The stranger raised one hand slowly, palm out, mocking calm. His voice dripped venom. "I already did. Years ago. You just never saw it coming." My mind scrambled. Years ago? Who was this guy? Mentor, partner, family? Every angle of this mess screamed danger layered on danger. I steadied my stance, my voice slicing across theirs. "Listen to me. Drop the knife. Both of you, stay right where you are." But I was background noise to them. Their world had narrowed to a twisted reunion, a sick bond snapping under pressure. The husband's eyes burned like fire. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." And the stranger's grin only deepened. "Gladly." Then he moved, not toward me, not away, straight at them. The husband roared, dragging the girl back toward the hallway. She screamed, kicking, clawing at his arms, her cries shredding through the night. And me? I had seconds, maybe less. Shoot, hold, engage. Every muscle coiled, every nerve screaming for action. Because in that moment I realized the truth. This wasn't just about saving a girl from her husband anymore. This was a war between two devils, and I was standing dead center in their battlefield. The stranger lunges toward the hostage standoff. The husband retreats with the girl. And Gary is trapped between two predators whose connection runs deeper than he can imagine. The stranger moved first. His boots thundered against the splintered wood, each step a drumbeat of inevitability. His leather jacket swung open slightly, revealing something glinting underneath. Metal. Maybe a weapon, maybe something worse. "Stay back!" The husband screamed, voice cracking, spit flying. His grip tightened around the girl, jerking her body like a rag doll as he dragged her toward the hallway. The knife pressed deeper, red streaks staining her pale skin. Her scream cut through the air, raw and panicked. "Help me! Don't move!" I roared, my Glock locked on target, my flashlight beam slicing through the dim chaos. "Drop the knife!" But I wasn't just shouting at the husband anymore. The stranger was in my line now, too. The husband's eyes burned wild, darting between me and the figure advancing from the doorway. He was cornered, but not broken. Not yet. "Don't you dare take this from me," he howled, voice fraying into madness. "She's mine." The stranger smirked, slow, venomous, like he was savoring every second. His voice cut low, controlled, but sharp as a blade. "She was never yours. You were just the dog I trained." The words sliced deeper than any knife. The husband froze, half a second. Maybe less, but I saw it. Recognition, history, betrayal. "Shut up!" he roared, dragging the girl backward, nearly tripping over the overturned coffee table. "You don't talk about me like that." "Not in my house." The girl sobbed uncontrollably now, her voice hoarse from crying. "Please, please stop." Her pleas were gasoline on his rage. He jerked her hair violently, forcing her head back until she cried out in pain. The blade shimmered inches from ending it all. And then he snapped. "This is your fault!" he screamed at the stranger, voice cracking. "Everything I am, everything I became, it's because of you." My stomach nodded. This wasn't random. This wasn't some abusive drunk losing control. This was history erupting into violence. The stranger's smirk never wavered. He tilted his head, eyes glinting cold in the half-light. "Exactly." The husband roared like a beast and lunged backward down the hallway, dragging the girl with him. I moved. Training kicked in. Feet light, Glock raised, clearing my angles. I kept my voice sharp, commanding, trying to cut through the madness. "Police, put the weapon down now!" The stranger ignored me. He followed, slow, steady, deliberate. His boots crunched on broken glass, the sound grating in the silence between screams. "Freeze!" I barked at him, aiming square at his chest. Hands where I can see them. Nothing. Not a twitch. He kept walking, like I was invisible. Like the badge, the gun, the authority of the law meant nothing in this room. The girl's cries echoed from deeper in the hallway. "He's going to kill me! Please help me!" My pulse hammered in my ears. Backup was still minutes out, and minutes were too long. I stepped forward, gun leveled, voice dropping into steel. "Last warning. Stop where you are, or I drop you." Finally, the stranger stopped. The hallway light flickered once, buzzing faintly. His shadow stretched long and jagged across the wall. He turned his head slowly toward me. His eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time I felt something cold. Something primal crawl down my spine. Then he spoke. "You don't understand, officer. This isn't about saving her." His voice was calm, too calm. "This is about ending him." I tightened my grip, jaw clenched. "You're not ending anyone, not on my watch." He chuckled, low and hollow. "You still think you're the hero in this story?" Before I could respond, the girl screamed again, a raw, piercing sound that ripped through my chest. The husband's voice bellowed from the dark hallway. "If you want her, come and get her." My blood ran cold. The stranger smirked. Without another word, he started forward again, disappearing into the shadows after the husband. I had no choice. I followed. The hallway was narrow, the air heavy with dust and tension. Broken picture frames lined the walls, glass crunching underfoot with every step. The girl's muffled sobs echoed from deeper inside. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, landing on streaks of blood smeared along the wall, hers. My throat tightened. The husband's voice echoed from the far room, ragged, manic. "You always wanted control. You always wanted to break me. But this time, you lose." The stranger's voice answered, steady, cruel. "No, this time you finally see the truth." I reached the doorway at the end of the hall. My heart pounded so loud I thought it would give me away. I steadied my weapon, inhaled slow, and then I stepped in. The scene froze me. The girl was on her knees in the corner, wrists cut from struggling, blood streaked across her face. The husband stood behind her, knife pressed tight, his chest heaving with rage. His eyes were wild, darting between me and the stranger. And the stranger. He stood in the center of the room, calm, almost relaxed, as if this nightmare was nothing more than a conversation. His eyes were locked on the husband, unblinking. I raised my weapon. "Drop it now." Neither moved. The husband's face twisted with hate. "You made me this. You created this monster." The stranger's smirk deepened. "Exactly. And now it's time to put you down." The husband roared, jerking the knife upward, and the room exploded into motion. The girl screamed. The husband lunged. The stranger moved like lightning. And I had to decide. Fire, hold, intervene. One wrong choice and she was dead. In the split-second chaos, Gary must choose. Shoot the husband, risk hitting the girl, or let the stranger end it his way. Time fractured. Every sound, every movement, every flicker of light in that ruined room stretched into eternity. The air reeked of sweat, blood, and fear, a suffocating cocktail that clung to my lungs as if daring me to choke. The girl's scream ripped through the air, raw and piercing, her body trembling in the husband's chokehold. His arm tightened, sinews bulging, as the knife blade flashed upward, glinting under the bare bulb that flickered overhead. A bead of her blood slid down the steel, catching the light before dripping onto the floor. Her eyes locked with mine, wide, shimmering with desperation. A silent plea. Save me, the husband roared, his voice guttural, primal, like a beast cornered. I'll end this right now! His spit sprayed across her cheek as his hand yanked her hair, dragging her head back even further, exposing her throat like prey on an altar. The stranger stood steady, centered like a storm in human form. His boots planted firm, hands loose at his sides, calm, too calm. His gaze burned into the husband's soul, unblinking. Do it, the stranger said, voice low, deliberate, venomous. Prove what I already know. That you're weak. That you were always weak. The words didn't come as shouts. They came as knives, and they cut. The husband trembled, his face twisted, torn between rage and shame, between power and collapse. Shut up, he bellowed. The knife quivered, not with strength, but hesitation. This was the opening. I shifted my weight, Glock leveled, sight aligned with the center of his chest. My finger curled on the trigger. Just 1 ounce of pressure and it would be over. But the girl, she was a shield. Her body pressed so tight against his that one wrong angle, one stray bullet, and I'd be the executioner instead of the savior. Think, Gary, think. The girl's muffled sob broke my paralysis. Please. And then it all shattered. The husband lunged. The stranger exploded into motion. I fired. The world became thunder. My Glock barked, the muzzle flash searing my vision. The sound ricocheted through the narrow walls, deafening, shaking the air itself. The bullet tore through space, but in that same instant, the stranger shoved forward, colliding with the husband. Steel clanged. Flesh cracked. The knife spun free, clattering across the floor, skidding under a broken chair. The husband staggered, snarling, blood blooming across his shoulder where my round had grazed him. His scream was animal, feral, the sound of a man unraveling. The girl collapsed to the floor, coughing, gasping, her hand scrambling toward her torn throat where thin lines of crimson welled up. I moved fast, pivoting low, my Glock still raised, but my focus divided. Stay down! I barked at her, my eyes never leaving the two men now locked in collision. The husband launched himself at the stranger with a wild punch. The stranger caught it effortlessly, twisting his wrist until bone popped. The husband shrieked, then slammed his head forward, skull cracking against the stranger's nose. Blood spurted. The stranger stumbled but didn't fall. He smiled, a twisted, blood-smeared smile.
That all you've got?
The husband screamed again, tackling him into the wall so hard the plaster split. Fists pummeled, boots kicked. Grunts filled the room, brutal, unrelenting. The girl crawled across the floor toward me, her eyes wide, tear-streaked. He'll kill him, she sobbed. Stop him! Please stop him! But I couldn't move. I wasn't watching a fight. I was watching a war. The husband slammed the stranger's head into the wall again and again until blood streaked the paint. I hate you, he howled, each word punctuated with another bone-jarring smash. The stranger laughed through blood, not a maniacal laugh, but a knowing one. You hate me because you are me. The husband froze. His chest heaved, his breath ragged, his fists trembling in midair. For a fraction of a second, I saw something human flicker across his face. Regret, pain, a wound older than any of us in that room. But then he roared again, shaking it off. Lifting a jagged shard of wood from the broken chair, he raised it high, ready to plunge it down like a spear. No! The girl screamed, crawling toward him. I didn't think. I moved. 1 step, 2 steps, Glock raised. But the stranger was faster. His hand shot up, clamping the husband's wrist. His other hand slammed forward, fingers jabbing into the husband's throat with vicious precision. The shard dropped as the husband gagged, clutching his neck. The stranger pushed him backward, slamming him onto the ground. He climbed on top, fists hammering down in a savage rhythm. Each hit sent blood spraying across the floor. The husband's screams turned into gargles. I froze, gun still drawn, torn in half. Do I stop this? Do I let it play out? One is a monster. The other is something worse. The girl clutched my arm, her voice shaking, desperate. Do something, please! The husband coughed blood, his face a mask of bruises. His eyes darted up at the stranger, filled with terror. Please, no more. The stranger leaned in, his voice low, almost tender. You begged like this once before. Remember? The husband's scream was muffled as the stranger's hand clamped down over his mouth. His other hand raised a shard of broken glass. No! I roared, lunging forward, tackling the stranger off him. We crashed into the wall. My Glock clattered away. The stranger spun with shocking strength, shoving me back. His eyes burned into mine, blood streaking down his face, but his grin remained. You don't get it, cop. You don't save people like him. You erase them. I swung hard, fist cracking against his jaw. His head snapped sideways, but his grin only widened. He retaliated fast, slamming his elbow into my ribs. Pain shot white-hot through my chest. I staggered, gasping. The girl screamed behind us, dragging herself toward the corner. The husband wheezed on the floor, spitting blood, half-conscious. The stranger circled me like a predator, his breathing steady despite the carnage. You think this is about her? About saving her? No, this is about balance. He owes, and I collect. I raised my fists, blood dripping from my knuckles. Not tonight. We collided, fists, knees, elbows, the sound of bone cracking against bone. My vision blurred with each blow, but I kept swinging. Fueled by something deeper than training. Fury, defiance. The need to stand as the wall between the innocent and the abyss. The stranger grabbed my collar, slamming me into the broken table. My back screamed in pain. He raised the glass shard high. I twisted, grabbing his wrist. The shard sliced across my forearm, blood spilling, but I didn't let go. I shoved upward, forcing him back, then head-butted him hard. His nose cracked, blood sprang. We both staggered, breathing ragged. The girl's sobs filled the silence. The husband coughed, crawling toward the knife he'd dropped earlier. My blood ran cold. No! I shouted, shoving the stranger aside, diving for the knife. But the husband got there first. He clutched the handle with trembling hands, dragging himself upright, face mangled but eyes blazing. You won't take her from me, he howled, spittle flying, blood dripping down his chin. The stranger stood, grinning through his own wounds. She was never yours. The girl screamed, huddled against the corner. Stop, please! The husband lunged, knife slashing wild. I had no gun, no time. I charged. We collided mid-air. The blade nicked my side, tearing flesh, fire searing my ribs. I grunted, twisting his wrist, trying to disarm him. He snarled, face inches from mine, eyes wide with hatred. I'll kill you! He screamed. And then the stranger joined. He tackled both of us, sending all three crashing to the floor. The knife skidded across the blood-slick wood, spinning out of reach. We scrambled. 3 bodies locked in chaos. Punches, kicks, screams. The girl sobbed, her hands pressed over her mouth, rocking in terror. The husband clawed at my face. The stranger yanked him back. I shoved forward. It was madness, a whirlwind of rage and desperation. And then sirens. Faint, distant, but real. Back up. The husband froze, eyes wide. The stranger looked toward the door, smirk tugging at his lips. This isn't over, he hissed, shoving me back. Before I could recover, he bolted, through the broken window, into the night. I lurched forward, glass cutting into my hands as I tried to grab him, but he was gone. Vanished into the darkness like a phantom. The husband collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, clutching his broken face. The knife lay inches away, glinting under the flickering bulb. The girl crawled toward me, clutching my arm, tears streaking her bloodied cheeks. Please, Don't let him come back. My chest heaved, blood dripping down my side, pain screaming through every nerve. I looked down at her, then at the wreckage around us, and I realized something that chilled me deeper than any wound. The stranger hadn't come here to save her. He'd come here for something else. And he wasn't finished. Backup arrives. The husband is restrained. The girl is safe for now. But the shadow of the stranger still hangs heavy. Who was he? What was his true connection to the husband? And why did it feel like he had unfinished business with me? The sirens were the first thing that broke through the haze. That endless bone-deep wailing that ricocheted off the neighborhood walls. It was like hearing death arrive late to the scene, a messenger rather than a savior. Red and blue lights flickered across broken glass, turning the ruined living room into a kaleidoscope of crime and despair. I tried to steady my breathing, but every inhale was fire against the knife wounds slashed along my ribs. Blood soaked the fabric of my uniform, hot and sticky. But pain was a luxury I couldn't afford. Pain made you slow. Pain made you vulnerable. And right now, slow meant dead. Emily's trembling hand clutched at my arm as if letting go would erase her from existence. Her eyes, wide and glassy, held the kind of fear I'd only seen in war zones. Victims like her don't cry loudly anymore. They learn to cry inward, to suffocate on their own silence, until a scream slips out only when survival demands it. Her whisper, cracked and broken, hit my ear like glass.
Don't
let him come back. I looked at her, and for the first time since this night began, I saw the truth behind her tears. She wasn't just afraid of her husband. She was afraid of something bigger, something older, something she hadn't told me yet. Boots thundered against the porch. The shattered front door groaned open, and 2 officers stormed in. Flashlights and weapons raised. Their beams sliced through the chaos. Blood-smeared walls, overturned chairs, broken furniture that looked more like battlefield debris than household wreckage. One officer barked, "Unit 17, report." I forced the words through clenched teeth. Suspect restrained. 1 victim alive. Knife secured. But I tilted my head toward the shattered window. Glass still raining down in slow, delicate shards. There was someone else. Male, mid-30s, combat-trained. He vanished before you arrived. The 2 officers exchanged looks. That look seasoned cops give each other. When the situation isn't just messy, it's rotten. One muttered into his radio. Dispatch, additional suspect fled scene on foot. Possibly armed. Units sweep perimeter. On the floor, the husband groaned. Still half conscious, his face a ruined mask of blood, swelling and shattered bone. Yet even with his jaw broken, he managed a wet, gurgling laugh. You think you saved her?" His voice scraped like rusted metal, ugly and full of spite. He turned his blood-soaked face toward me, and I swear, even in that wreck, he smiled. "You've just doomed her." Emily recoiled, pressing against me like a child hiding from a nightmare. My instincts screamed to silence him, but I forced myself to hold back. His words weren't random. They carried intent. "You're done talking," I snapped, shoving him toward the uniforms. They hauled him up, but his laugh followed, echoing long after he was dragged outside. And just like that, the house fell silent. Too silent. Because silence, I've learned, is never peace. It's just the pause before the storm swings back harder. By the time we reached the station, dawn was only a faint smear of gray on the horizon. The world outside was waking to coffee pots and alarm clocks, blissfully unaware of the war that had just raged inside a suburban home. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as if mocking me, stabbing at my eyes after hours of adrenaline and blood loss. The antiseptic smell of the precinct usually grounded me. Tonight it suffocated. Emily sat in the interview room, wrapped in a police blanket that swallowed her frame. She hadn't let go of the water bottle someone gave her, but she hadn't sipped it either. She just held it like it was the last anchor to reality she had left. Her eyes were hollow, the kind of hollow that spoke of years, not hours, of torment. I stood behind the one-way glass, arms crossed, every nerve buzzing with unfinished violence. Sergeant Morales, a man whose face looked carved from stone after 3 decades of service, leaned beside me. His arms were crossed tight, his jaw clenched. He studied Emily, then turned to me with that voice that never rose above gravel. "Hell of a mess you walked into, Gray." "Mess is putting it soft," I muttered. My ribs burned with every word. Morales' eyes narrowed. "Talk." So I did. I told him about the fight, about the stranger who moved like a phantom, about the words he spat at both the husband and me. And as I spoke, Morales' face grew darker, the weight of it settling into the room like smoke. "He wasn't just some intruder," I said finally. He knew them. He knew her husband, knew her. He wasn't there for a random attack, he was there for blood. Morales didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Just stared at me like a man staring at a loaded gun left on the table. "You think he'll come back?" I didn't need to answer. The silence between us spoke louder than anything I could say. When Emily was finally calm enough to speak, they let me in. Her hands shook as she clutched the blanket tighter around her. She looked smaller up close, like she was folding in on herself, trying to disappear. "Emily," I began gently, taking the chair across from her. "I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." Her lips quivered. "About him?" "Yes." She bit her lip hard enough to draw blood. Her eyes darted around the sterile room like she was checking for escape routes. Then, in the softest whisper, she said, "He wasn't supposed to be here?" "Who?" Her silence was an answer in itself. Her entire body trembled. "Emily?" I pressed, lowering my voice. "That man wasn't random. He knew your husband. He knew you. If you don't tell me who he is, I can't protect you." Her eyes filled with tears that she didn't bother to wipe away. Finally, with a voice so broken it barely carried across the table, she whispered one word. "Brother." It felt like the floor shifted beneath me. "Your husband's brother?" I asked carefully. She shook her head violently, desperately. "No, mine." The room went still. The air thickened. I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. Pieces of the puzzle slammed together. The way he taunted her husband, the venom in his words. The way Emily froze when I mentioned him. Her face crumpled and she covered her mouth with both hands. Through the cracks of her sobs, the truth spilled out. "He told me not to marry him. He said he was poison. He begged me to walk away. But I didn't. I thought love could fix it. I thought I could fix him." She gasped between sobs. "My brother. He thinks this is my punishment. He thinks I deserve this." Her words weren't just confession. They were a death sentence echoing in the room. When I left the interview, my chest felt heavier than my vest. Morales stood waiting, his eyes searching mine. "Well?" he asked. I swallowed hard. It wasn't a stranger. It was her brother. "And he's not done." Morales swore under his breath, rubbing his temples. "So we've got the husband in custody and the brother running loose, with God knows what in his head. Gray, do you realize what this means?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, it means tonight was just the opening act. Because Emily wasn't safe. Not in her home, not in protective custody, not anywhere her brother could find her. And me, I wasn't just her rescuer anymore. I was her last line of defense. And shields don't break. Just as Gary prepares to transfer Emily into protective custody, the unthinkable happens. The brother doesn't flee the city. He turns the hunter's gaze back on the precinct itself. The storm isn't out there anymore. It's already here. The precinct was supposed to be safe. That was the cruelest lie of all. We'd put Emily in a secure room, cameras watching from every angle, 2 uniforms stationed at the door. I'd filed my report, bandaged my side, and told myself the worst was over. But the thing about predators like her brother, they didn't vanish. They stalked, they waited, and they struck when you let yourself believe the cage was strong enough to hold back the world. It was just past 3 a.m. when the first sign arrived. The front desk officer, Martinez, yawned as he shuffled through paperwork. The station was quiet, too. Quiet, only the hum of vending machines and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights filling the halls. He was about to take another sip of his stale coffee when his radio crackled alive with static. Copy? Gray, do you read? I looked up from the locker room bench where I was tightening the strap of my vest. That voice wasn't dispatch. It wasn't anyone on our channel. It was deeper, rougher, and it carried something that made my blood freeze. My name, Gray, the voice hissed, distorted through interference. You think you saved her? Martinez frowned, twisting the dial. What the hell? The static cut again, then cleared, just for one sickening sentence. You can't cage what belongs to me. The radio went dead. I was on my feet instantly, adrenaline flooding back into veins that hadn't had a moment to rest. I stormed toward the front desk, Martinez staring wide-eyed at the silent radio. That wasn't our frequency, he stammered. No, I said, my voice low, steady, masking the storm raging in my chest. It wasn't. When I pushed into the holding area, Emily looked up immediately. Her eyes darted to my face, reading it. Searching for safety, she must have seen something in me, something she didn't like, because her voice shook. When she asked, He's here, isn't he? I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to. But lies don't save lives. We don't know that yet, I said carefully. But he contacted us, which means he wants us to know he's close. Her hands trembled, gripping the blanket tighter. He always does this. He doesn't fight like normal people. He plays. He breaks you before he finishes you. Her voice broke on the last words. I crouched beside her, leveling my gaze with hers. Not tonight. Not while I'm breathing. But even as I said it, my eyes flicked to the security camera in the corner of the room. A thought drilled into my skull, ugly and invasive. What if he wasn't just near? What if he was already watching? By 4 a.m., the precinct was buzzing. Morales had doubled security, locked down all entry points, and ordered a sweep of the perimeter. Officers moved in pairs, radios clipped tight, weapons ready. It looked like we were preparing for war, and maybe we were, because predators like Emily's brother didn't bluff. I found myself in the surveillance room staring at a wall of monitors. Cameras showed every hallway, every door, every inch of the building. Officers patrolled in grainy black and white loops. For a moment it looked like control. Then I saw it. Frame 17, the back lot. A shadow at the edge of the fence, still as a statue. Too far to catch detail. Too deliberate to be an accident. I leaned closer. The figure didn't move, didn't pace, didn't fidget. He just watched. And then, slowly, he lifted a hand and waved. My stomach sank like lead. Before I could bark an order, the monitor flickered. Static bled across the screen, lines distorting the image. Then it went black. One by one, the other screens blinked, fuzzed, died. The last one to fall was Emily's room. She was still there, head buried in her hands. And then the screen cut to black. The entire precinct lit up with shouting. Cameras are down! Systems fried. Backup grid offline. Morales stormed in, fury carved into his face. Talk to me. Power surge, one tech stammered, fingers flying across a keyboard. But it's not random. Someone triggered it. I clenched my fists. He was inside the system, and if he could see our cameras, he knew every move we made. That's when the lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the station whole. Gasps echoed through the halls. Officers shouted over each other. Flashlights clicked on. beams cutting through the black like blades. And then, somewhere deep in the building, a single sound rang out. A slow, deliberate clap. The kind that makes the hairs on your arms rise because it isn't just sound, it's a promise. We swept the corridors, flashlights piercing every corner. My ribs screamed with each step, but I pushed forward. It's a promise. We swept the corridors, flashlights piercing every corner. My ribs screamed with each step, but I pushed forward. Emily was priority. Nothing else mattered. Unit 5, secure the north exit. Unit 9, check the basement generator. Gray, with me, Morales barked. We moved fast, weapons raised. Every creak of the building amplified in the silence. Then a scream tore through the halls. Female, sharp. My heart dropped. Emily. I sprinted, ignoring the fire in my ribs, ignoring Morales shouting after me. My boots pounded the floor until I reached her holding room. The door was open. The guards were down, unconscious, sprawled across the floor like discarded dolls. And Emily was gone. On the table where she had been sitting was a single scrap of paper, folded neatly, placed with care. I snatched it up, my hands trembling, and unfolded it. The handwriting was jagged but deliberate. You thought you could protect her. You thought you could cage the storm. But storms don't live in cages, Officer Gray. They break them. They break everything. She's mine now. And if you want her back, you'll come alone. You know where. There was no signature. None was needed. I stood there, the note burning in my hand. The precinct collapsing into chaos around me. Officers shouting. Morales demanding answers. Radio spitting static. But none of it mattered, because this wasn't a manhunt anymore. It wasn't about duty or badges or procedure. This was personal, and he'd just made one fatal mistake. He thought he was the hunter. But the hunt was only just beginning. Emily has been taken. The brother has turned the precinct itself into his playground, proving he can breach walls, crush systems, and steal lives from under their noses. But now Gray has to decide. Follow protocol and risk losing her forever, or break every rule in the book and face the storm, head on, alone. The note burned in my hand long after I'd read it. Its words carved themselves into me, searing deeper than any knife wound ever could. You know where. It wasn't a riddle. It wasn't a bluff. He was daring me, and I knew exactly where he wanted me to go. The abandoned sawmill on the edge of town. A place where shadows lived longer than light, where the machines of another age rusted like bones left to rot. It was the kind of place you sent ghosts to finish their business. And tonight, one of us would stay there forever. Morales cornered me in the hallway, fury flashing in his eyes. Gray, what the hell happened? How did he get her out under your nose? I shoved the note into his chest. He's playing me. This was never about her, it's about breaking me. Then we'll go together, Morales snapped. We mobilize every unit. SWAT, choppers, dogs. No. My voice was cold steel. That's what he wants. A circus, a crowd, a distraction. He'll kill her the second he sees flashing lights. Morales grabbed my arm. Gary! I ripped free. He said, come alone. If I don't, she dies. That's the game. And I'm done letting him write the rules. I didn't wait for approval. Didn't wait for backup. Didn't wait for reason. I just walked out. The night was a predator itself. Clouds smothered the moon, swallowing the sky in black. My cruiser's headlights carved through the darkness, illuminating nothing but cracked asphalt and the endless whisper of trees leaning too close to the road. Every mile closer to that sawmill felt like stepping deeper into a grave. My ribs throbbed. My fingers clenched the wheel until my knuckles ached. My gun lay heavy at my side. But heavier still was the thought of Emily's terrified eyes when she realized her nightmare wasn't over. I replayed every second of the past 48 hours. The call, the knife, the smirk, the shadow at the fence, his voice bleeding through my radio like poison. He had always been one step ahead. always in control. But tonight would be different. I would not leave that mill without her, or I wouldn't leave at all. The sawmill rose out of the earth like the carcass of some long-dead beast. Windows shattered, roof caved in. The giant steel blades inside rusted into silence. The air smelled of oil, rot, and something sharper, anticipation. I killed the engine, stepping out into silence so thick it pressed on my chest. Crickets had gone quiet. Even the wind had stilled. It wasn't just a place. It was a trap, a stage. And I was walking into it willingly. I moved slow, gun raised, every step measured. The gravel crunched under my boots like gunfire. The massive doors groaned when I pushed them open, echoing into the abyss beyond. Darkness swallowed me whole. Then a light snapped on. A single hanging bulb swayed in the center of the mill, its glow pale and sickly. Beneath it, Emily, tied to a chair, gagged, bruises darkening her arms. Her eyes widened the second she saw me, tears spilling over. Relief, terror, both at once. And then, a voice slithered out of the shadows. You came. He stepped into the light, tall, lean, his face half hidden in shadow, but his smile was unmistakable. That same sick, triumphant smirk from the hostage scene, now stretched wider, hungrier. Emily's brother. The predator. The puppeteer. The storm. Knife in one hand, a handgun in the other. You followed the trail like a good little hound. He sneered. Obedient, predictable, just as I knew you would. Let her go, I growled, weapon steady. It's me you want. I'm right here. He laughed. It was hollow, echoing, a sound that didn't belong to anything human. Oh, Officer Gray, you still don't get it, do you? This isn't about her. It never was. She's just the stage where I break you. His words were knives. You failed once before, didn't you? Someone you couldn't save. Someone who died because you weren't fast enough. That's why you wear the badge. That's why you play hero. But deep down you know the truth. He leaned close to Emily, pressing the knife to her cheek. She flinched, tears streaming. Heroes don't save people. They bury them. Put the knife down! My voice cut through the silence like thunder. He tilted his head, amused. Or what, you'll shoot me? Kill me in front of her? Paint her last memory in red? His gun shifted, aimed directly at Emily's head. My stomach dropped. Drop your weapon, he ordered. On the ground, now, or she dies before you even twitch that finger. Every muscle screamed at me to resist. Every instinct begged me not to give him control. But Emily's life wasn't a bargaining chip I could risk. Slowly, I lowered my weapon. The metal kissed the floor. He smiled wider. Good dog. He circled me now, pacing like a wolf sizing up prey. Emily sobbed behind the gag, struggling against the ropes. You know what I love about cops, Gray? He whispered near my ear. You pretend you're lions, but under the uniform, you're sheep, and sheep always follow. His gun pressed against the side of my head. Say it, he hissed. Say you can't save her. I clenched my jaw. Not happening. His voice sharpened. Say it. The echo slammed against the mill walls, drowning Emily's muffled screams. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. My eyes locked on Emily's, steady, unyielding. You're right, I said finally, my voice steady as stone. He froze, grin faltering. I can't save her, I continued. Because she's not yours to hurt. Not anymore. She's stronger than you'll ever be. And you... I stepped forward, slow, deliberate. You're just a coward with a knife. His face twisted with rage. And that's when Emily moved. With a scream, muffled but raw, she threw herself sideways. Chair crashing into the ground. The sudden motion knocked his balance just enough. The gun wavered, the knife arm jerking. That was my opening. I lunged. The world blurred into chaos. His fist swinging, my ribs exploding in pain. the gun clattering to the floor, boots scraping on steel. We crashed into rusted machinery, dust exploding around us. The knife slashed, grazing my arm, burning hot. I slammed him into a beam, fists hammering, his laughter echoing even through the blows. "You can't stop me," he roared, driving a knee into my stomach. I doubled over, but adrenaline turned pain into fuel. My hand found a jagged pipe on the ground. I swung. It connected with his face. He stumbled, blood spraying, the knife slipping from his grasp. But before I could finish it, his hand snatched the fallen gun. Time fractured. The gun rose. Emily screamed. My heart stopped. The muzzle flared. A shot rang out. But not from his weapon. He staggered, eyes wide, crimson blooming across his chest. The gun slipped from his hand. Behind him, Emily, the gag half hanging, her wrists raw and bleeding. One hand clutching the revolver I hadn't noticed taped beneath the chair. Her hands shook violently, but her aim had been true. He collapsed to the ground, choking, laughing even as blood filled his throat. You can't kill the storm." Then he was still. Her tears soaked into my shirt. My ribs screamed. My body trembled. But I held her tighter because she was alive. Alive. And that was enough. By the time backup arrived, dawn had begun to break. Light spilled through the broken windows, chasing away shadows that had lived there too long. The storm had passed, but its scars would remain. As I watched Emily sit in the back of the ambulance, a blanket around her shoulders, I thought about everything he'd said. About failure. About heroes. About sheep and lions. Maybe he was right about one thing. Heroes don't save everyone. But tonight we saved her. And sometimes that's enough to keep the darkness at bay. In the end, monsters aren't just the ones hiding in the shadows. They're the ones who make you believe you're powerless. But if you fight back, if you refuse to give in, you become the storm that swallows them whole.